A police officer, a firefighter, or a paramedic shouldn't walk into a building and lose the most critical piece of equipment they have in their personal protective equipment profile. That's communications. Their radio, exactly. Good government, to me, is about being efficient, effective, and responsive to the needs of the people you're there to serve. Trying to make life better than it was when you got there. I had a manager one time, he said, I judge how well my people are doing by how often my phone rings. And, that kind of stuck with me as a young leader. And it's that same thing, having conversations. No government's perfect, I'll be the first to say that. There's always going to be issues. But when you have an issue, it's about fixing it and not just letting it continue to fester and be a problem. So oftentimes, government continues to kick the can down the road. And in public safety, with a public safety background, you're making life and death decisions in a few seconds.
Welcome to the Good Government Show. I'm Dave Martin, and I'm about to learn a lot about emergency services and technology. I'm about to have a conversation with Alan Purdue, a county commissioner in Guilford County, North Carolina. Alan got elected to an office after a long career in public safety, starting as a volunteer firefighter at the age of 16, then a long career in emergency management, rising to be the director of the county's Department of Emergency Services. His retirement, and I'm going to throw air quotes around that word, well, it lasted about a year, because 1 year after stepping down, he was elected county commissioner. Public safety continues to be his area of focus, as you'll hear. He serves as executive director of the Safer Buildings Coalition. He is currently a member of NACo's Telecommunications and Technology Policy Steering Committee and was recently a featured speaker at their breakout session on public safety. As you will hear, he continues to work on eliminating dead zones in buildings and improving radio communications. He's also chair of the county's mental health subcommittee. A lot of work for a retired guy, and you'll hear this conversation coming up right after the break. The Good Government Show is sponsored by NACo. That's the National Association of Counties. County government is actually the oldest form of government in the United States, and it touches more people directly. Roads, highways, hospitals, schools, recycling, law enforcement, water and sewers. In most of the country, those services are maintained by the county. That's county government. NACo is a nationwide organization that represents all 3,069 counties across the USA. NACo helps county government work better together through things like sharing best practices, because when county government works well, that's just good government. Welcome to the Good Government Show, and we are having a conversation with Alan Purdue. I've just said your name, but if you could introduce yourself, where you're from, what your title is, and what you do.
Sure, I'm Alan Purdue. I'm a county commissioner in Guilford County, North Carolina, and also serve as executive director of a not-for-profit called the Safer Buildings Coalition.
And what's the organization you're on here at the National Association of Counties?
I serve on the Telecommunications and Technology Steering Committee.
So first, let's just talk a little bit about Guilford County, North Carolina. Where is it? Where are you?
We're in the Piedmont Triad area of North Carolina, which is central North Carolina. We're a county of just over 650 square miles with a population of about 540,000.
And what's is High Point in Guilford County?
Yeah,
Greensboro?
High Point, Greensboro, both are within Guilford County.
And full disclosure, my daughter went to High Point University, and so I have been to Guilford County.
Yeah, exactly. Very nice university.
Yes. She was there for 4 years and graduated. Now she's working. So we love High Point University. So one of the things that we found out is that you are involved in improving communications in buildings, both new buildings and especially older buildings. Tell me why this is a problem, and set up for us what the challenge here is.
Certainly, in many buildings, the construction materials that are used inside buildings, concrete, steel, low E glass windows, block RF, radio frequency signal, from entering into the building. From a public safety perspective, police, fire, and EMS utilize radios daily. And once they enter into a building, that radio signal is often blocked, rendering their radios useless. The same concept happens in the cell world, where people go inside a building and have no cellular coverage because that signal is being blocked.
Now, some people would argue that why is this a big deal? long before we had cell phones, we were able to get work done. Why is it important, and why is this a particular challenge?
Well, today we're a connected world. If you're not connected, you're less safe. Think about needing to call 911. Over 80% of calls to 911 come from a mobile device now.
Okay.
When's the last time you saw a payphone on the wall?
I can't recall.
Or even a desk phone on some people's desks.
Yeah.
So the ability to call 911 and be located is critical. The ability, you mentioned your daughter going to college. I had the same experience when my daughter was going to college, and we're at the family orientation day. And I asked this question. I said, with my background in public safety, I asked this question. I said, you guys have a mass notification plan so that if something happens, my child's going to get a message, either a text or an email about what to do to shelter in place, whether it's an active shooter event or a weather event. And they said, yes, we have this plan. They can sign up and be notified. And I asked a follow-up question. I said, what have you done to ensure you have coverage in every area my child or anyone else's child is going to be in so that they can receive that message? Yeah. And you could have heard a pin drop. So we have to think about, can people get messages about what to do in an emergency? And then the third piece is, can first responders communicate? A police officer, a firefighter, or a paramedic shouldn't walk into a building and lose the most critical piece of equipment they have in their personal protective equipment profile. That's communications.
Their radio.
Their radio, exactly.
Now, let's establish your bona fides in this field. I think you told me before we started recording, 34 years in
emergency services.
Tell me about your background there.
Yeah, I started out as a volunteer firefighter at 16 years of age, and then went
16.
to work. Yeah, went to work when I was 18.
You couldn't play for the baseball team? You decided to be a firefighter?
Yeah, that was in my blood.
Okay.
And so 34 years, last 10 years serving as emergency services director and chief of the department, and we provided fire, EMS, emergency management services. So
were you a firefighter as well at some point?
Yeah, firefighter as well. So my background has always been public safety, and so this issue I've experienced firsthand, where you can't communicate either from in the building or if you're an incident commander outside trying to talk to somebody, and it's a very critical issue for our first responders.
What's scary about it?
The scary part is if somebody needs help and they key that radio and need additional resources or need help, they're not going to get it. And this also affects the public's safety, because as emergency responders respond to an incident, they're trying to get all the information they can to make the best decision about how to mitigate that particular situation. So when they can't communicate, it just creates chaos. And if you look at many after-action reports, it'll talk about inadequate communications being a factor in the outcome, and sometimes the unsuccessful outcome of an incident.
Have you been in situations, or were you in situations yourself, where you just couldn't communicate and it was a dangerous situation?
Yeah, and what happens is, public safety is a very resilient group. They're going to find a way to make something happen.
Firefighters do.
That's right. And but we shouldn't be putting our people in that situation. When you invest in a radio system, which is millions of dollars, right. You invest in portable radios that range from $5,000 to $7,500, give or take, depending on the bells and whistles. One of the things you expect that radio system to do is what? Work.
Yep.
Work where our first responders go to work, and that's the built environment of the communities they serve.
And so what do you bring to the NACo subcommittee that you were part of?
Two things, I did a presentation today, and I wanted to highlight. Number one is awareness of this issue. And one of the things is, when you have regulations like these that are within national fire codes that are adopted on a local level, oftentimes you'll get some pushback from building owners and developers to say, well, that just drives up cost. I don't want to do this. So we've had policymakers exempt these requirements on a local level, and what that does is put their responders at risk. So I want to bring awareness to why this is important. The second thing is, we did a project in Guilford County, knowing how critical this is, knowing that our schools where our youth go every day had an issue. I was able to work with my peers on the commission and get $5 million allocated to start solving this problem in some of our schools throughout our county.
What made you decide to transition from firefighter, emergency response to county commissioner?
to continue to be able to help. There were some things I wanted to get done and approved as emergency services director that didn't get done. And I thought, well, let me get on the other side of the dais and see if I can get some funding to do some of these things that were vital and provide a voice for our emergency responders.
And have you been able to do that? Have you been able to make some changes?
Able to do that. Been able to make some changes. A building we tried to get built for about 20 years got built. And they're using it now.
And what do your firefighter buddies say to you when they see you?
Well, they're glad it's done. We've been able to work on salary increases and other things to help public safety, because at the end of the day, those first responders are there for all the citizens to meet that need, and we need to make sure they have the resources that they need to do the job day in and day out.
And they're probably glad to have one of their own in charge.
I certainly hope so.
Are they supportive? Are they a good?
I'm in my third term, so
all right, okay, all right. And now I know in New York anyway, firefighters, they all get together. They meet at each other's houses, backyard barbecues. Are you still part of that crowd?
Yeah, and my role now with the coalition, I get to interact with a lot of the folks. I was very active on a state and national level during my career, serving on the International Association of Fire Chiefs Board of Directors and code councils and codes and standards councils. So I get to see a lot of folks. You still have a lot of conversations, and that brotherhood and sisterhood is still there. And
I would imagine on some level it sort of keeps you humble.
Yeah, it does.
Because firefighters are not going to let you get too big for your pants there.
Well, I always everything we do, whether as a chief or as a commissioner, should start out with this question: what's best for those we're here to serve? Yeah. It's not about us, it's about the people we serve. So we have to make decisions based on that founding principle, in my opinion.
All right, well, since you brought it back to government, I'm going to bring it back to you. We have a questionnaire here, so we're gonna jump into this and we're gonna find out your true feelings about government.
All right.
So my first question is, define good government.
Good government to me is about being efficient, effective, and responsive to the needs of the people you're there to serve. Trying to make life better than it was when you got there.
That's simple.
That's simple.
How do you know if you're providing good government? What do you use for yourself so you know that you're doing the right thing?
Part of what I look at is how, number one, intrusive requirements are, and number two, how simple is it for people to be able to do what they need to do. I believe in Six Sigma, looking at process, looking at data. To me, data drives decisions. So we need to have data to make decisions about what needs to be done. And we need to make sure we don't have useless steps or roadblocks or impediments in the way of people getting what they need. It's about delivering service and not being a roadblock to what people need.
And how do you want the people to hold you accountable to know that those services are being delivered?
It's really pick up the phone and let us know. I had a manager one time that said,
we just said that 80% calls from cell phones. Could they text you?
Sure, they can text. One is being available. My number's out there. But I had a manager one time. He said, I judge how well my people are doing by how often my phone rings. And that kind of stuck with me as a young leader. And it's that same thing, having conversations. No government's perfect. I'll be the first to say that. There's always going to be issues. But when you have an issue, it's about fixing it and not just letting it continue to fester and be a problem.
Now, in your role as head of emergency services, obviously you were working very closely with government leaders. Did you have someone when you came on the board to sort of mentor you?
Yes and no. As department head in our county, I had sat through hundreds of board meetings and saw how people operated, and picked a lot of tips up on that. Talked to a lot of folks to try to figure out, and through the educational process as well. It's really about making decisions. So oftentimes government continues to kick the can down the road. And in public safety, with a public safety background, you're making life and death decisions in a few seconds. And
this government stuff is easy.
Yeah, this government stuff's easy. I can remember being in the back room one time, and they're talking about creating a committee.
Yeah.
I said, for what? Make a decision, move on. You know,
Yeah.
this isn't rocket science. You know, I made that statement. I said, I've took less time to decide if somebody's going to live or die. You know, and not that that's it's that simple, but we really just need to act, you know, to get the job done.
So if people feel like they're not getting the representative government they want, or that their leaders aren't doing what they want them to do, what should they do?
Get involved. You know,
How? What's the best way?
Sometimes it's about running for office. You know, it's about putting your name in the hat. It's about getting on a committee, getting on a group.
But that's hard, though. I mean, you know,
It's hard.
You know, you've a wife, kids, school, a job. You know, oh, now you want me to run for office? Why can't you do it? That's why I elected you.
Yeah. Well, part of
I'm
that.
just, you know, I'm not arguing with you, but I mean, there's that mindset.
Yeah.
How do you get past that?
Well, part of it is one, you know, approach with decorum and respect.
Yeah.
One of the things I think we've lost in government sometimes is respect for each other, the ability to have conversations about differing opinions and figure out where's the middle ground. You know, it's not going to always be the way I want it or the way you want it, but can we find a medium road that we can go down and have a conversation without being we can agree to disagree without being disagreeable.
Okay.
Have those conversations, and sometimes it's having the difficult conversations. And I always use a Stephen Covey concept: seek first to understand before being understood. It's about listening, and oftentimes constituents just want you to listen to what their issue is. You may not have an answer, but you need to at least listen and see what their point of view is before you start making a comeback or something along those lines.
So 9 years as a county commissioner. I think you said 32 years.
34 years.
34 years in public safety and emergency response. What would you like people to know about government? What you know, who aren't insiders, what would you like those non-insiders to know about how government works and how it operates?
Well, that's a $64,000 question. You know, understanding there are limitations. You can't be all things to all people. And I think the biggest thing people don't realize is you have to manage limited resources. Understanding that, you know, there's only a certain amount of money and you can't fund everything. And you have to prioritize. And oftentimes that prioritization is based on the particular citizens that you serve. It's different for different things. There's no one size fits all, because every community has different issues, different problems going on, and things like that. So, you know, we learned this in the fire service as an example. Fire prevention message used to be the same no matter where you went. We now call it community risk reduction, because the risk in each community is somewhat different, so we need to focus on that specific risk.
Here's an easy question. Who's your political hero?
Ronald Reagan.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
His style, his demeanor, he was a very effective communicator, and it's kind of ironic we're sitting right here where he was, you know, shot.
Yes, we're at the Washington Hilton.
At the Washington Hilton, yeah.
DC.
And but just a great communicator and very professional demeanor.
Now, you're from the
Triad, Piedmont Triad.
The Triad.
Area.
You're from the Triad area of North Carolina. What's your favorite food? What's your favorite dish back home?
Barbecue.
Oh, good man. What are you having? What are you ordering?
I get to chop barbecue. It's good. And North Carolina's known for barbecue. You got Eastern, you got Western, you got Piedmont.
Right.
But,
Which one are you? What are you going with?
I like most of them. How about that?
All right. Where's your go-to place in your area?
We got a little place called Country Barbecue, and I eat there usually about once a week.
Good man. Good man. Now, when you're firing up the smoker, what are you cooking?
I cook steak a lot.
You do?
Yeah.
Steak at home.
Steak at home. Yeah.
You said you started as a volunteer firefighter at 16. Was running for office, getting into politics, something you always had in the back of your mind?
Not really, but you know, my career had me involved. As I said, I worked on a state and national level a lot. I was up here on Capitol Hill advocating for resources for public safety, and you know, just being in that process, thinking, you know, well, if I'm gonna make a difference, I got to get engaged and get involved. So that was kind of a pivotal point that, hey, I've got folks that have asked me to stay involved, and I kind of had that burning desire, so prayed about it, and
well, you could have retired. You could have retired after 34 years.
Yeah, I could have said bye, but
go to work at the bait shop, something like that.
But my philosophy is that you have to have a purpose. That's what keeps us going, and I thought here's an opportunity to continue to serve if the people want me to.
So, in your 9 years, tell me something that you've done that you're proud of that is a real good government project.
Yeah, I mentioned what we're doing with the schools. Another project that was very near and dear to me was the building of a brand new behavioral health center. We built a new adult and adolescent center, 2 different centers, to serve our public. Behavioral health has become a major issue both for the public and our first responders, and we needed resources. We had a situation where people didn't know where to go to get the right service, the right answer, and we said, we're going to build a place that has an open door. There is no wrong answer. You're going to get to the service you need.
And first responders are exceptionally harder to have them reach out to get the services, right?
Exactly.
And what have you done? How have you addressed that issue?
It's about having peer support,
right.
Critical incident stress debriefing processes and things like that, and just bringing more awareness that it's okay to talk to somebody. It's okay to say, this situation impacted me. And, I think every first responder has one of those incidents in their career that you lose sleep over at night. And we want to make sure that people have the right resources to deal with that and address that.
Have you seen a change in mindset over your career?
I think so. There's more articles about it. There are people that have programs. Used to it was like the hidden taboo. You don't talk about this, but
right.
But now it's not. That's if somebody has a heart condition, you don't. You go get help and you talk about it and all that stuff. Behavioral health is a very similar concept. It's we need to be able to have those conversations and have the resources that are there to meet people's needs.
Well, that is important work, for sure. This is a great conversation with Alan Purdue. Thank you for stopping by. Great to meet you. And, hey, keep up the good work.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Kutztown University is a smart choice for Pennsylvania students or students from anywhere looking for an outstanding college experience close to home and in the heart of Pennsylvania. With over 130 majors, KU has endless academic opportunities. Kutztown also offers plenty of on-campus housing, 24/7 dining options, comprehensive support services to ensure our student success, and so much more. Kutztown has 22 NCAA Division II sports teams and a nationally recognized men's rugby team. How about that? Plus, you get it all with the affordable tuition of a state university. So visit kutztown.edu on the web, kutztown.edu, and see why it's good to be golden. I liked his answer a lot. Efficient, effective, and responsive to the people you're elected to serve. That's how Guilford County, North Carolina Commissioner Alan Purdue defines good government. That's not a bad 3-word definition. And, well, frankly, I'd vote for a county commissioner that gets to his favorite barbecue place at least once a week. So that was a good conversation on public safety. Join us again on the Good Government Show when we have another conversation with someone else in public service who will explain how they see government working for all of us. I'm Dave Martin. Join me on the next episode of the Good Government Show. Thanks for listening. The Good Government Show and A Conversation With is produced by Valley Park Productions. Jim Ludlow, David Martin, and David Snyder are the executive producers. Our editor and producer is Jason Stershic. This is The Good Government Show. Thanks for listening.